じゃあ、今日も、じゃあ、どうするか。これはビデオを始める前にね、解説しないとね、わかんないんですよ。で、
はい。
日本語で解説つけたんで、
はい。
80モータル、80モータルって先週説明したと思うんだけど、80モータルっていうのは8人の神々っていう意味だけど、
はい。
その8人について先週出したよね、ここに。
はい。はい。はい。
あの、
波の上にやつ。
そうそうそうそう、いっぱい出したよね。でその8人の一人の、ロドヒンっていう
はい。
一人を取り上げて、で、そのビデオを解説してんだけど、80モータルズ、80モータルズっていうのは、この人たちのことを言うのね。鄧小平とか、陳雲とか、革命の人たちをね、8人のことを80モータルって言ってんだけど、ただ、その日本人はロドーヒンのこととこういう80モータルズを知らないから、
はい。
で、僕はこれを一つ持ってきて、で、これは簡単な夢っていう話だけど、そのロドーヒンの話で、彼は出世を目指して科挙を2回受けたけど落第して、
はい。
長安の佐川で雲坊と名乗る、これは80モータルの一人、勝利権という人と会うんですね。
はい。
で、修行の誘いを受けるけれども、出世の夢が捨てきれずこれを断って、ところが、ロドーヒンが香蓮を焚いている間に、ロドーヒンをうたた寝をして夢を見るんですよ。
はい。
で、話はこれと、簡単な夢って有名な話知ってるがあるんですけど、それとはちょっと違うんだけど、まあ、このストーリーはそういうストーリーで、
はい。
で、うたた寝をして夢を見るんですね。で、科挙に受かって、出世して、両家の娘と結婚して、たくさんの子供を救うんですね。
はい。
でそうして40年が過ぎるが、ある時重罪に問われて、家財を没収されて、家族は離散して、左遷されるんですね。
うん。
そこで実は彼が夢から目が覚めて、まだ香蓮は炊けてなかったっていう話なの。
コーリアンって
香蓮って五穀って知らない冷えとか
あ、
ほとか、
はい。はい。はい。
その類。貧しい人の類。で、この話なんですけど、単語はですね、結構、Oh, Takahashi, you just arrived here, right? Oh, no, Sasabe. Okay,
はい。
you joined, okay. Takahashi will come in soon. Where you are? You just in office or somewhere?
No, I'm just in the something cafe.
Oh, cafe. Oh, okay. You can see my screen.
Yes.
This screen,
Yeah.
word, right? Word screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just started to explain the uh, video, the content. I just in Japanese explain. で、OK。単語はインモータルは神々。アボット、総員長。ディファイル、汚す。ソリタリー、単独行動する。スロー、ぶらつく。マーベル、驚嘆する。ミレット。これはここでは、コーリアンと言ったけど、泡ね。ソリチュード、孤独。それから、セクルーデッド、隠遁した。セクルーデッド。それから、ディサイポル、弟子。それから、ライチャス、正義。ライチャスネスってよく言うでしょベネボレンスって仁義の仁。ライチャスネス、正義の義、仁義の義。ライチャスネス、ベネボレンス。これは絶対覚えておく必要ありますね。それから、all sentiment beings っていうのがこう中に出てきます。生きとし生けるもの。all sentiment beings。slay は、
こんばんは。
slay は殺害する。slay は殺害する。
こんばんは。
ごめんね、ちょっとまだ早かったけど始めた。 OK。persecution。persecution 迫害。じゃあ。遅れてきたけど、これ単語今ね、今日のビデオは、Discovering China. China's sacred mountains, Taoists, immortals, and Shenyun. Shenyun っていうのは日本でもやったけど、踊りね。で、それのビデオの中身を説明してんだけど、遅れてきたんで、ちょっと単語だけもう一回ちょっと説明したけどね。ビデオの中単語わかんないとわかんないから。イモータル、神々。アボット、総委員長。defile、汚す。solitary、単独行動する。slow、ぐらつく。marvel、驚嘆する。milleth、泡。solitude、孤独。secluded、あ、ごめん、こっち忘れた。ちょっとそう、大丈夫、こう。OK。secluded は、隠遁した。disciple、弟子。righteous、and righteousness。benevolence と righteousness っていつもペアで僕教えてんだけど、benevolence が仁義の仁。righteousness は仁義の義。義ってのは正しい行い。righteousness。benevolence は思いやる。benevolence。いいね。all sentient beings。生きとし生けるもの。slay。殺害する。persecution。迫害。いいね。それでその後は、このストーリーの中のね、出てくるやつだけど、予備知識で勉強してほしいんです。で、勝利権というね、属性の儚さを悟り、勝利権で弟子入りを求めると、この前のね、ビデオとちょっと違うんですよ。本当はこっちが正しい。10の試練を課されることになる。これを見事にこなしたロドーヒンは、晴れて勝利権。これ、8 immortals の一人が、勝利権。で、弟子に認められたのが、ロドーヒン。これも8 immortals の一人ね。で、ロドーヒンが勝利権から受けた10の試練は以下のようなものである。これね、僕全部コピーしたんですけどね、面白いんでね、これね、授業の基本なんですよ。で、ぜひ覚えてほしいんですね。第一試験の一つ。ある日、同品が外出し、戻ってくると、家族全員が病死していた。彼は嘆くことなく淡々と葬儀の準備をした。しばらくすると死者は皆生き返ったが、ロドーヒンは全く怪しまなかった。これね、儒学のね、基本なんですね。どんなことがあっても喜怒哀楽で心が動いてはいけないっていう第一子。これはね、儒学の基本なんです。で、第二子。これは僕よくもう、自分で習熟して、どんなことがあっても心が動かなくなりました。長年時間かかりました。喜怒哀楽。特に、儒学では注意してるのは、嬉しい時に心が動いて間違った判断をするって言われてますので、それは気をつけなきゃいけない。笹部見えてるお前。笹部くん。
見えてます。大丈夫です。
OK。第2子。ある日、同品が市へ物を売りに行き、その値段を決めたが、相手が前言撤回し、値段の半分しか払わなかった。しかし、同品は何も言わなかった。これはね、私が教えてるね、ペイシェントなんですね。約束した約束破った。それに対して我慢しなさいというのが、儒学の教えなんですね。第三子、同品が元旦に門を出ようとした小事件施しを求めていたので、同品は物を与えた。しかし、小事件はさらに物を要求し、その罵り出した。同品はただ笑って謝るのみであった。これもやっぱり、我慢しなさいっていう類ですね。 怒っちゃいけないということですね。なかなか人間できないので、これを怒らないようにしなさいということ。そういうことです。だから第4子。同品が山中で羊を放牧していると、一匹の飢えた虎が羊の群れを追いかけてきた。同品は羊を下山させ身をもって虎の前に立ちふさがると、虎去っていった。これはあれですよね。なんだろうな、よく僕言うんだけど、義理の、仁義の義って説明するんですよ。仁義の義というのは、我羊なりということなんですね。義って書くでしょ我の上に羊がある。我羊なりって読むんですけど、羊の群れっていうのは、一番先頭が若者羊で、その後から女羊、子供羊、それから中年羊、一番しんがりが老人羊ね。で、義っていうのは一番最後の羊のことを言うんですよ。ということはどういうことか、最初に食べられちゃうのね。最初から自分が最初に食べられちゃうことを意識して、羊の群れってそうなってて、それを義というのね。義という意味は正しい行い。仁義の義。これはそれを言ってんですね。お前食べられてるつもりで、その心がけをしなさいという意味なんですよ。第4子はね。ここまでは真っ当なんですよ。第5子。第5子は難しいんですね。同品が山地の同社で読書をしていると、そして17、8歳の前世の美女がやってきました。母の元から帰るどころなんだ。日が暮れてしまったので、休ませてほしいという夜になると女性を何度も誘惑したが、同品は最後まで心を動かさなかった。女性は味方と去っていった。これね、儒学にはないんです。なぜないのかというとですね、儒学になぜないかというとですね、2500年前は女性はね、奴隷だったんですよ。だから、奥さんもお金で買ったんですね。だから、なんていうの、誘惑するとかいうのはないんですね。儒学には。論語にもないし、孟子にもないし、グレートラーニングにもないんです。これはその後に、なんていうか、2500年以降の話ですね。だから、なんていうかな、これは定層とか定説のことを言ってるんですけど、昔の儒学にはそういう感覚は全くなかったんですね。
8世っていつぐらいの話だよ。
これわかんないけど、その後でしょうね、きっとね。こういう人が。秘書五経にはこういうふうな話は出てこない。ただ、秘書五経に出てくるのは、女性は、奥さんは、いいところでの奥さんはお金高いんだけど、買った後は、どういうこと書いてあるか、大抵100%が女性の言いなりに今度男になるんですね。女強いんですよ。家庭に入ると。だから、買うまでは女性は奴隷なんですけど、家に入ると女性の地位は高いんですよ。高くなっちゃうんですよ。要するになんていうかな。男が外に買った女性をほっぽり出さないで、家に置いて子供作ったり家庭を作ってしまうと、女の方が地位が高くなるんですね。これはだから孔子老子とか孟子の前だから後なんで、こういうこと書いてあるんですね。だから、秘書五経を勉強したことはこういうこと知らないんですよね。で、それから、第六子で、ある日同品が外出して戻ってくると、四大山すべてに住まれていた。しかし同品は怒りの色を見せず、自ら高橋や、それと昨晩は何か頭があって、掘り起こしてみると数十の金塊であった。しかし同品はそれを包み埋めて、一つも取らない。これね、前段はね、物全部盗まれてもね、変える一つ変えてはいけないんですね。儒学は。何があっても変える一つは変えてはいけない。で、これね、埋めたものを元に戻して一つも取らなかったっていうのはね、あんまり聞いたことないですね、これね。中国の文化に。みんな持ってっちゃいますよね。だから、これはだから、なんでこんなこと言うのか、僕もどっかの文献にあるんでしょうね、きっとね。要するに 私利私欲を持つの。だから多分ね、何を言いたいのかというと、中国の、いわゆる諸国教には義を見て利となすというのがあるんですね。で、利益とか儲けが後で義が先だという、ね、正しい行いが先で、利益は後だ。だからそういう意味で、正しい行いって何ですか、金塊見つけたら何ですか、それは取っちゃいけませんよという意味で書いたんだと思いますね。義を見て利となす。でこれは大きな、あれですね、大事なことで、例えば僕この間お話したように、中国で、ある不動産会社の社長がね、現地の中国人のご弁護士やるときに、自分がほとんど仕事をするんで、お金は中国人ですけど、私の方を余分に取っていいですかっていう相談を受けたんです。僕はその時に、それはダメです。あなたが全部仕事をしても、利益は50、50で分けなさいっていうことを言ったんですね。それは儒学でいう義を見て利となす。ね。なかなか自分がやってんだから自分がもっと取りたい。もしくは、日本の企業の方が海外に物を売るときに、自分のところで作ったノウハウだから、中国の方には利益が2割、私が8割ってよく言うんですけど、それは間違いなんです。儒学では、あれちっちゃい。儒学では、それは折半なんですね。それがここでの6番ですね。7番目、ある日同品は町で銅器を買ったが、見るとそれは全て金でできて、それを銅器を無理とし、これを返した。これはだから、義を見ていると思います。でもね、ちょっとこれはやりすぎだと思いますよ。もらっちゃってもいいと思ってます。7子とか6子あたりで落第ですね、私は。第8子。第8子。気の狂った同士があぜ道で薬を売っており、これを飲んでも直ちに死に、再び生き返って得度できる。で、10日経っても買う者がいなかったので、これを同品が買って、速やかに死後に備えるがよいと言って同品が飲んだから何も起こらない。これはね、ちょっとね、なんかね、本当にこんなことが第8子でいるのかな、誤訳じゃないかなと思うようなとこあるんですよね。気の狂った同士が薬売ってそれを飲んだらさ、飲んだら死んじゃいますよね、普通ね、中国だったら。間違いなく。だからそれは死んじゃいますね。第9子。同品は大勢の人々と共に川を渡った。しかし終了に至ると川が氾濫し、風が激しく吹き荒れ、波がどっと押し寄せた。人々はみんな恐れをのいたが、同品は頓挫し動かなかった。これはね、儒学の根幹ですね。心が動揺、どんなことがあっても心が動揺してはいけない。ということですね。できる人は少ない。樹脂。同品が一人部屋で座っていると、突然奇妙な化け物が無数現れ、同品に襲いかかり殺そうとした。しかし同品は正座したままで少しも恐れることがなかった。次に数十もの餌が襲いかかってきた。また血を滴られた死刑囚が泣きながら、お前は前世で私を殺した。今私の命を償ってくれと訴える。同品は人を殺したのなら償うのが利だと言い、刀を取り自破しようとした。これはどうですかね。前に見せた武士道に出てくるビデオで、要するに、正義のね、正義であれば、葉隠れで言ってたように、自分の死を恐れないということをそういうことなんです、これはね。ただ、これは、要するに、死刑囚が出てきたっていう、そういう、前世でお前、命を償えっていうのは、それは、前世ですからね、そんなこと本当のことわかんないんで、これはちょっと自破するっていうことはないんですけど、普通はやっぱり、あなたは悪いことしたでしょうとしました。でも本当は自破するべきですよねっていうんで、わかりました、自破しますっていうのが、武士道なんですね。 武士道っていうのは儒学につながってるんで、でもこれは、まあ、ちょっと大げさですよね。すると突然空中に大声が響いて、飛信たちはみんな逃げて、ただ一人手を叩いて大笑いする者が、勝利権で、10回試した頃は動かなかったんで、弟子にしますよっていう話です。これは、10種は全部合格する人は世の中にいないんで、まあ、過半数 OK だったらいいでしょうみたいなことだと思いますよ。ただ言ってることはですね、さっき説明したように、儒学の根幹を言ってるんですね。で、要するに、いくつも同じ例言ってますけど、何があっても心が動いてはいけないということですね。それからあと、利益っていうか、自分が儲けるってことは考えちゃいけませんよ。正しい行いが先ですよっていうことを強く言って、取れたそれでもう一つね、説明しますとね、簡単な枕っていうのがあって、唐の新規制の小説、新中期というのがあるんですね。で、それは、さっきも同じことを言ってますけど、小の時代に露生という若者が人生のそのような故郷を離れた、小の時代の簡単に露生はそこで、老という同士に出会って、永遠とわずかなダータ文字だけの短いの半数を語って、それ同士が夢が叶うという枕をくれたんですね。その枕を使ってみると、それが来た。もんないかな。言っちゃった。自ら不要が立ったその同士が枕をくれて、その枕を使ってみると、家に出世して目をもらえるときに、冤罪投獄され、瞑想を求めたことを悔いて自殺しようとしたり、運よく処罰が願えたり、冤罪が晴らされて死んでいるのを従いながら、栄光聖聖の極み国王にも、剣心に誉れる、欲しいままにいたり。小山川にもよれ、ここに置くが、しかし年齢にはかけて多くで苦しまれ、ながら眠りをしんだ。よくふと目覚めると、実は最初の道という同心であって、当日であり、寝る前に、火にかけた、泡がゆがまだ、上がってさえなかった、すべては夢であり、つかの間に出てあったのだ。どうすれば、枕元にいた、老に人生の英語出身に出て、すべてを見ました。先生は私の猫を放ってくださったと、丁寧にご用意ごくれた。だから、簡単な枕っていうのが有名なんですね。で、さっき言ったストーリーがちょっと違うんですけど、でもこういうのは、中国の、考え方にはね、強くある。で、要するに、自分が偉くなりたいとかね、金が欲しいとか、そういうようなことはね、あれ、あんたアメリカじゃなかったの？
はい。
中国に帰って
なんかに、
なんか、Facebook が、
Facebook で見たらさ、まだアメリカのニュースがあったから。取れた。取れた。
しかし壁紙が。
うわぁ、やってき。もうさっきね、ゴミ捨てた。ゴミの中にはね、何十匹も入っててね。
何がいたんですか？
いや、ブドウ食べたらそこで繁殖しちゃったみたい。
あ、そう
で、それではですね、今解説したんで、ビデオ見ていただきます。俺にもちょうだい、お茶。ビデオ見ていただきます。8選ですね。説明したから大体中身はわかると思うんですけど。
Hello and welcome to Discovering China. I'm Ben Hedges. Coming up on this week's show, would you like to visit China's sacred mountains? The story of one of China's 8 Taoist immortals.
This person is just, I told you, the right exact person. That one.
And Shenyun performing.
Shenyun, you know this? They did big event in Japan. And this case is they did a couple of years ago at New York.
Art brings classical Chinese dance to New York City. Now, many Westerners go into Kung Fu, Tai Chi, or meditation, but few have actually visited China's sacred mountains and temples where these traditional arts originate. This week, we talked to one man who has. This is his story. China has many sacred mountains where few Westerners venture, yet there are those that do. The owner of Sacred Journeys, Lin Hai, initially got into Chinese martial arts.
Oh, by the way, this is a strange person. Many foreigners staying at Tibet, they studying martial arts and religion. And I know the Chinese, my friend, they went there, and those people, especially, I told you this place, Abbot, is very strong power, and we cannot believe. We cannot. They have,
Even a strong power in terms of
spiritual power, spiritual, like a,
気みたいな。気
that's right. It's not like a very strong. He tried to get in his room.
Mhm.
He cannot get in. Strong power to pushing out. He told me. I don't know if it's true story or not.
For self-defense.
By the way, my second wife was based in China, and her mother had studied for the special kind of exercise, spiritual exercise. I don't know this. Okay, third wife is the same. She had Taiwan special exercise, spiritual exercise. And I took exam and first rank, second rank, and third rank, sort of several ranks they have. Big history, like he
kind of violent in the 60s.
like he did.
So I practiced martial arts, and then it became part of my own ego.
But a trip to the home of Kung Fu, the Shaolin Buddhist temple in China, would change Lin Hai forever.
When I got to the temple, the abbot of the temple grabbed my hand, gave me a transmission of pure love and compassion, and it destroyed every single thought and feeling of martial arts I ever had.
This opened a door for Lin Hai to study Chinese medicine, and he went on to study softer styles of Kung Fu, such as Bagua and Tai Chi, as well as Tibetan meditation.
Bagua って言いましたけど、Bagua is just like a little small cup, put on your back, and take air out, right? Do you know that? This is Bagua.
Lin Hai learned from Buddhist masters and Taoist temples in remote mountainous regions of China. Because of his own experience, he recognizes the profound effect that visiting China's sacred mountains and spiritual sites could have on people's lives in an age where material wealth is often placed above all else.
But one thing about wealth is that it can buy you a lot of things, but it really can't buy you eternal happiness. To really find that eternal happiness, you have to look within. And to look within, you really have to go on the journey of self-discovery. And so on the outer level, we go on these journeys of self-discovery into the tribal areas, into the mountains, the temples, and whatnot. On the inner level, so it's sort of purifying all our attachments and our negativities and our defilements, transforming our ignorance, greed, and hatred into love, compassion, and wisdom. And it's a lot easier to do that when you're on a spiritual mountain with spiritual energy present.
Lin Hai now runs a business that takes Americans to China for their own spiritual journeys in the mountains. He often takes clients to remote mountain caves where many generations of masters have sat in meditation.
And when you go into the caves, some of the cave complexes are quite deep, and you always see these magical signs like the footprints or handprints of different masters and finger drawings in the rock and little sacred caves that are hard to get into, but once you get in there and you meditate, the energy is very strong.
Lin Hai brings back some of this same
She said meditate energy is very strong. Very strong.
energy
I don't know why, but this special energy they have.
to his home and practice room in Queens, New York. where he inspires New Yorkers to take
That's the
the
reason why kind of people living there.
first step on their own sacred journeys. Chinese history has many legendary stories of Taoists who had supernormal abilities and could prolong their
Now is going to get into that story that I just explained.
lives. The most famous of these Taoists are the Eight Immortals. Here is the story of one of these ancient masters, Liu Dongbin.
Liu Dongbin. Okay, Liu Dongbin.
During the Tang Dynasty, on the 14th day of the 4th month, in the 14th year of Zheng Yuan, an extraordinary fragrance and heavenly music filled the air. A solitary white crane descended from the heavens and landed by a woman's bed. A boy was born. This boy later became known as Liu Dongbin,
This is Liu Dongbin. Okay.
one of the eight
One of eight mortals.
past immortals.
This is eight mortals. This is eight, right?
Liu Dongbin was intelligent and good at poetry. As the son of a government official, he had to follow
Oh, this one is now they're going to explain that. This is dream. Okay. He making a millet. Our millet. While he was making a millet, he fall in sleep. While he was in sleep, he had a dream like this.
his parents' wish. So young Liu went to Chang'an for the imperial government examinations. While
This is dream.
strolling along the streets of Chang'an, Liu noticed a Taoist writing a poem on the wall. He marveled at the poetic quality, the elegance of the stranger, and paid him respect. The Taoist asked Liu Dongbin to write a poem himself. So Liu wrote, "I was born in a family of Confucian scholars in a period of peace. I find the garments of a government official too heavy and prefer peasants' clothes. What is the meaning of pursuing, striving for fame and wealth? There is the heavenly sovereign in the palace of heaven, sir." This Taoist was Zhongli Quan, one of the three leaders of the Eight Immortals. Seeing Lu's wish to cultivate the Tao, Zhongli
So
invited
this
him.
is mixing. Only this is different person. Okay. The story is mixing. And just the reason why before I explain Liu Dongbin.
The mountains to cultivate the Tao with him. But Lu turned him down. Later at an inn, while Zhongli was cooking yellow millet, Lu Dongbin
This one, Liu Dongbin, cooking, mixing story. Okay, just don't misunderstand. Cooking millet, right?
fell asleep and had a dream.
Asleep, dream.
In the dream, 18 years went by. Lu passed the imperial examination with the highest score, obtained a high government position, and then became the prime minister.
Okay, before you come here, I just explained in Japanese. I writing down this paper on this document, right? So this one is he just dreamed for I don't know very short time period. Just spent 18 years in the dream. Okay.
He got married, had children and servants, but his life took a drastic change. He was betrayed and lost everything, including his family and property, and was left wandering in poverty and solitude. Regretting his life, Lu woke up. The millet was still cooking. Zhongli smiled and chanted, "While the millet is still cooking in the pot, you have completed your life in a dream."
Right? Without before reading Japanese, it's really difficult to understand this video. Okay,
Lu
right?
Dongbin then abandoned his life as a Confucian scholar and agreed to follow Zhongli to embrace the secluded life of cultivation. Lu had to endure 10 tests before Zhongli took him
This is 10 tests already explained, right? 10 tests.
as a disciple. Each of the tests involved loss of worldly, material, and personal gain, and letting go of the ordinary human attachments and feelings. In one test, Lu protected his sheep and fearlessly confronted a hungry tiger.
This
In
one
another,
already
he resisted
explained.
the temptation as a young beauty tried
Young
to
lady,
seduce him.
right?
In the last test, Lu was willing to die to repay a debt from his past life.
Repay a debt, okay? From his past life, right?
With righteous thoughts, Lu Dongbin passed all the tests. Zhongli then taught Lu the true and genuine secrets of the Tao. Later, Zhongli left the human realm, riding on the clouds. One story has it that Zhongli told Lu that if he kept practicing,
This is 8 more times.
Kissing the Tao, he too would be able to fly to heaven. But Lu responded saying he would like to save all the sentient beings on earth before he flies to heaven. Lu traveled south to the source of the river Li and met Zhu Rong, the supreme Taoist at Da Long, who taught him the swordsmanship of Tian Dun. He gave Lu Dongbin a sword which he used to eliminate demons. Legend says that Lu Dongbin made appearances in the human world for over 400 years. He slayed demons with his sword and helped others to learn the Tao. Lu often traveled between the mountainous and swampy areas in the provinces of Hunan and Hubei, near the source of the Yangtze River and the Huai River. Later, Zhongli returned, saying Lu Dongbin's name had been added to the Registry of Immortals at the Heavenly Palace. Today, Lu is known as one of the 8 famous Taoist immortals. His poems were collected in the Chuan Tang Shi, the complete collection of Tang poetry.
So before Japanese, material you have read, so now you understand, right? It's only just video. You cannot understand what they are talking about, right?
This week, Shenyang Performing Arts, the world's premier Chinese performing arts company, has been playing at New York's Lincoln Center. We speak to one audience
Oh, she's going to explain that. Shenyang. This is just dancing.
member
In New
about
York.
what she thinks of the show. New Yorkers are out in force to attend the first evening performance of Shenyang Performing Arts season at Lincoln Center. In attendance is Arlene Flannelly, the Deputy Commissioner of the New York City Department of Records.
It's amazing. It really is. The costumes, the music, everything about it. But to see the history actually expressed through music and dance is quite spectacular.
Flannelly understands well the mission of Shenyang to revive ancient Chinese culture, much of which has been lost in mainland China. A few months ago, she partnered with Shenyang Promotions International and NTV Television to hold a party at the Department of Records promoting Shenyang's message to New Yorkers. Shenyang was well received. Upon seeing the show, Eileen says she is touched by what Shenyang is doing for China.
You're separated, but you're still trying to take care of what's going on in your country and still making, things right. And I think that's a lot of what this is about. And it's an amazing way of really expressing it so that the whole world, everybody understands music and dance. So I think it's a whole different way of the world.
Okay, just have a look. They're going to show Tiananmen Square incident.
Saying it.
Later.
Shenyang displays traditional Chinese culture, but at the same time, some of the dances tell the story of suppression of freedom
This one.
in modern China. Eileen's companion at the performance, Tom Mackel, says the two aspects blend well together.
This kind of an event certainly shows the historical culture of the Chinese people.
Oh,
At the same time, it's to bring others' attention to the fact of the persecution and the significance of that. And it's an interesting way to portray it in terms of the show, the dance and music and the costumes and the historical significance of the Chinese people, etc. So
Almost
very
finished for the first video. Okay, so you
Shenyang
can
will be
join
performing
from
at
second.
Lincoln Center until April 28th.
Did you see this?
NTV
No,
News,
yeah.
New York.
Okay, you can make a question anyway.
And if you're interested in seeing Shenyang, they'll be playing 4 more shows this weekend at Lincoln Center in Manhattan. You can visit shenyang.com or contact the Lincoln Center box office. That's all we have time for this week, but we will return next Friday with coverage of World Tai Chi Day. See you then.
Okay, this is the first one. So, Shoudong Ling, Shuriken, and Rodogin. I can't forget that, what they say in English. Ludon Ping. Okay, I tell you, whenever you're going to meet with overseas people, you need to explain Chinese ancient story. You should not say Rodogin. Ludon Ping. Otherwise, they never understand. There may be some interesting China interesting person. If you want to Ludon Ping, they will understand. But very rare. Okay, this is almost all Japanese they don't know. So I just leave it, put the Japanese explanation here, or I explain here, and then also another story of the. Okay, they just you can explain to overseas people. The Chinese saying they want to get more money, they want to get more better position, and this person is came to give him this can pillow, gave him pillow, and he used this pillow and he sleep very short time, but already in his dream, 18 years in his dream, but just not long time, 1 hour so. Still he woke up, but still in the just millet, millet is boiling. So sort of story. And then he recognized, okay, 18 years, and he got all the money, but finally failed in his life. So he just reconsider what the way he should go. Reasonable. I want to give this video to watch ask her to watch. No, she always telling about need money, want money. No, you need to think about that's the most important issue. It's supposed to be this kind of video. Second one is a little bit. Chris Chappell is a very famous person. I like his presentation. He's talking about this is China is a democracy. China is world largest democracy or not? He's talking about. Have a look. This is not. Oh, sorry. I just wait. I need to explain that a little bit about this. 彼は共産党以外 25% の違う政党の代表がいるっていうことがあるんですね。75% は共産党じゃないんです。で、中国には100万件の村がありますけども、これはなんか今選挙で選んでるみたいですね。で、ただその党が監督するために書記を国が指名してるんですね。で、書記も選挙する場合もあるみたいですね。で、毛沢東が言ったのは戦後民主主義国家はブルジョワの専制政治に支配されるだろうと毛沢東が言ったんですけど、確かに今はその通りになっています。ですね。それから難しい。
彼を党が監視するために。書記、つまり、党が書記を指名している。
そうです。党が書記。監督、村長を監督する。
監視者ね。
で、あと単語はね、あんまり難しい単語なくて、レイン。それから、by a mile。ボアラ。これはスペイン語かなボアラ。
フランス語。
フランス語フランス語。
フランス語の先生。
それから、set forth。revere。decay。難しい単語ないですね。じゃあ、これはなんか今、開けたんだけど、どうしちゃったかな。いやもう一回開くか。しょうがない。
On this episode of China Uncensored, the true meaning of democracy, with Chinese characters.
Just 4 or 5 minutes short video. So,
hello and welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. If you were watching,
Chris Chappell is a very famous person for explaining mainly China, but also he explains other countries. But he's a normal person. Normal means not left or right. Okay.
The lamestream media last year, you probably heard a lot of nonsense like this.
The world's most populous democracy.
India, they are the world's largest democracy by a mile. The only country larger than them at all is not a democracy.
Or is it? Fortunately, my favorite Chinese state-run newspaper, Global Times, is here to set the...
Okay, Global Times is Chinese government-owned newspaper. Okay? Government-owned. Never tell the truth, okay? 環球日報。環球ってグローバル。グローバル。環って、ぐるぐる回る環。球は地球の球。日報。環球日報。環球日報。Global Times.
The record straight in this recent article entitled, "Which Country is Really the World's Largest Democracy?" The answer to that, obviously, is China. The author, Han Jun, explains that China's National People's Congress system is, in fact, a democracy. Not only should we criticize the false nature of Western democracy, he writes, but we must clarify the democratic nature of our country, China. As Han Jun describes it, China is a...
By the way, I want to ask you, what is the key element of democracy? What are the key elements?
Human rights.
Okay, human rights.
Right to vote.
Voting.
Freedom of media.
Okay, freedom media, yes.
There are 7, right?
Not so many. More, two more. Okay, just the vote and the freedom of media and just human rights and more, 2 more.
Not equal opportunity.
No. Very close, but not no. More precise word. Okay, rule of law.
Rule of law.
Rule of law, close, what you say. One more. Okay, govern by the people.
Governed by the people.
Okay, this is 5. Well, actually, on this my paper, I'm taking about 4. Okay. 4, but just 5 is okay. So, otherwise, if you're going to get into detail, like last week I showed Chan Weiwei, I showed Jack, 2 people, they didn't understand what is democracy. So I just ask you the question. Just listen.
Democracy, because the government gives every ethnic group and social class an opportunity to take part in policy making and the selection of leadership. It's true. You may have heard that China is a one-party dictatorship, but there are in fact 8 other political parties under the Communist Party United Front Department. 5 of them even have the...
Yeah, this one, 8 parties, they have many democratic organizations. I've never heard about this, but I saw it before, but this is 25% of total vote.
The word democracy right there in the name. Representatives from these parties occupy about 25% of the seats.
Right, 25% of National People's Congress. National People's Congress organized by 3,000 people. Okay?
In the National People's Congress. See, multi-party democracy. And unlike in ineffective so-called democracies in the West,
She said ineffective so-called. Now I'm thinking about, I'm going to spend many times discuss about democracy. What is the best solution for the government regime? And America, United States is a democratic country. Is America the best or not? Last week I showed you Eric Lee's opinion. His opinion is we can have 2 regimes. One is democracy, the other one is Chinese type of regime, not democracy, not authoritarian. Okay, just special organization proposed. And this sort of things I currently consider what's the best solution. But Chinese style is meritocracy, so-called meritocracy, 能力主義 meritocracy, ね? And just democracy.
実力主義。
能力主義、能力実力主義。Meritocracy, ね? Okay. So if we don't need to consider for lots of obstacles or lots of barriers. Just eliminate all those. What is the best solution for what kind of government regime supposed to be? This is my target goal for consider for this kind of regime is supposed to be, right? This one is a more easy one.
China's congressional representatives are loyal. They've passed every single bill put before them in the last 60 years, most of them unanimously. See, China knows how to get things done. Simply change the definition of what it means to be a democracy, and voila, you have the world's largest democracy. And if that's not democratic enough for you, China's nearly 1 million villages hold direct elections for village chiefs. To ensure that the village chief represents the true interests of the people, the Communist Party appoints its local party secretary to oversee him. Or in most cases, the party secretary is the one who gets elected, which is just law. So, as you can see, this all follows China's constitution, which clearly sets forth China's democratic system. Under the leadership of the Communist Party of China and the guidance of Marxism, Leninism, and Mao Zedong thoughts, the Chinese people of all nationalities will continue to adhere to the people's democratic dictatorship. Speaking of Mao Zedong thought, who better to explain China's democracy than Chairman Mao himself? A man still so revered that his portrait watches over Tiananmen Square and the last resting place of his own decaying corpse. Anyway, Mao thought that the rest of the world was corrupt. In his selected works, he wrote, after the outbreak of the Second Imperialist War, i.e. the Second World War, there is hardly a trace of...
Okay, hardly a trace of democracy in many of the capital countries.
democracy in many of the capitalist countries which have come or are...
Okay, which have come or are coming under the bloody militarist dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. This is talking about oligarchy, right?
Coming under the bloody militarist dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. Well, obviously a democracy under capitalism is bad, and so are bloody military dictatorships. That's what we can all agree on. So, Chairman Mao, tell us what kind of government China ought to have. Let's see. Democracy is shared by the common people, by which Mao means the peasants and the farmers. Check. The bourgeoisie, i.e. the middle class, are not allowed to own things privately. Check. Obviously. And it's led by the working class, i.e. blue-collar factory types. Check. Mao was right. China is a democracy. Take that, 800 million voters in India.
Okay, you understand, right? This is true.
So what do you think about China being the world's largest democracy? Leave your comments below and be sure to subscribe for more episodes. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.
Okay, just he said like this one. And he just explained this one. But actually, China is none of democratic key element has in their constitution, in their regime. Okay?
Leadership of the sympathy of the working class. I mean,
yeah, leadership of the working class means, okay, this is a Mao Zedong thing. If you join the Communist Party and for 20 years, 30 years, and we are working class, and going up in a ladder and top of the organization. This is meritocracy.
yes.
He said this one. Not
So-
election, not
Okay.
voting, but you're going to make effort, year by effort.
Yeah, but then who appoints you?
No, it's
Yes, it
among group.
So
It's the local village and then province and
no, but how do you ask? How do you get approval?
oh, okay,
Okay,
they have
who judges you?
performance. It's a group, like a village. But first of all, they need to be elected by village people.
So election.
Yeah,
Elect-
village.
elect.
Yes, 1 million village they election. But going up to the step to the higher position of the government, no election.
So, no.
Okay, for example, one good example I just explain you. More obvious example. Okay, mayor. I'm a mayor. I need to attend 10-day, 20-day training every year.
Okay.
Every year. Then I'll take the exam there. So at there, I'm evaluated.
So there's a paper exam.
Of course, not only paper, meeting and just on sort of, somebody observe him and higher position observe him, and he's going to be selected to the next position, higher position.
And how much? And no bribery.
Everything bribery.
Really?
If you don't pay money, you never be mayor.
Okay. So basically, skill don't matter.
Of
If you know
course,
how to, if
including
you know how
no,
to
no, no, no.
earn trust,
No.
if you know how to
No,
bribe,
skill of how to manage people is mandatory.
how to manage people based on bribery.
Bribery is different. Bribery is Chinese culture. So you don't consider for bribery. Bribery is spread all over the world. If you born child and you need to pay money for doctor, everything you need to pay money.
Everything you need to pay money, but being appointed.
Oh, being
You see,
appointed,
see,
you need. Why don't you give money for?
Meritocracy.
Yeah, why don't you give money for him?
See, meritocracy needs to be thought separate from
Of
bribery.
course, both issues is mandatory. You have talent, and you have skill. You need to study more, and you need to have money.
Okay, and money.
And money, of course. In China, if you want to survive, you need money. If you don't have money, you can't get anything at all. Even you can't get any friend.
Really?
Why? If you can get money, you need to buy house for her. If you can't buy house for her, you can get wife. Okay?
Okay.
If you child go send to school, you need to bribe your teacher. Otherwise, she never teach your son. Yeah.
Never teach.
Never teach, neglected.
So culture, huh?
From born till die, need money. And this is Chinese culture. Okay, but if you're going to get a lot of bribes, and this is going supposed to be arrested. Lot of bribes, like a Rolex gold watch, you're going to be arrested. And or if you're going to more higher position is the province, level of the responsible person. At that high level is if adversary person will appoint him his bribe. That's the reason he just adversary relationship is called a lot of people is arrested. Okay? So move to next. This is bribe, it's culture. Then next is communism versus Confucianism in contemporary China. And this one is a little bit it's educational style of video. So they tell about what is socialism, capitalism, and oligarchy, and authoritarian so forth. And Confucius is recently Confucius is prevailing. And what they're talking about is a new respect for the regime, respect for your boss, and you try to take care of your family, and need to be considered for the hierarchy, social hierarchy. You need to obey your government. Sort of things is you need to concern about. This is a completely different from Western freedom. Sonben, sort of things just talking explain the Sonben. Three issues. Sonben, 三民主義、民族的、政治的、社会的平等。それから国民革命の理論。国内諸民族の平等と外国の圧力は武器と目指す民族主義。民主の民権主義。民主制の主義、民権主義。 平等知見、資本節制を目指す民政主義の3つ。中国国民と台湾のね、どういう
台湾
今ね、三民主義台湾。
民政主義って
うん
何民政主義
民政主義っていうのは孫文の言葉。
あ
民主制の実現を目指す民権主義。民主主義と同じ。孫文の言
どこに民主制民政どこに出して
民政
葉。民主制の実現を目指す民権。だから民主主義とちょっと違うんだけど、孫文が三民主義と言ったのはこの3つ。vestige, or feudal, liberally, vibrant, rampant, truth, epigram, on par with, repression, homage, prescribes, desecrated, persona non grata, defer, unjust, vandalize, diametrically opposed, vilify, instrumental, illiberal. And この中にチェルシー・マニング出てくるんですね。チェルシー・マニングはここに書いてあるようにですね、アメリカ軍の兵士で機密を漏洩して、2013年にスパイ活動で判決を受けて、軍事裁判所で35年の刑期を言い渡されて、バラック・オバマが特赦したんですね。で、特赦された彼は、軍隊は不名誉状態。ですけど、彼は男性から女性に変わることを宣言して、チェルシーっていう名前を付けた。有名なんですね、チェルシー。OK、じゃあそれさ、
もともとの名前は
わかんない。これで女の名前になっちゃってる。
そうなってるんだよね。
チェルシー、エリザベス・マニング。I don't know what is the original name, who he is or who she is, whatever. Okay, this is exactly study video.
ブラッドリー・エドワード・マリ
This is study video. Okay, you can study.
To non-representative
同級生
China. Communist China claims to be a democracy, but a democracy of a very different, and it claims better kind than Western liberal democracies. Yet communist China itself is rapidly giving up.
Just a moment, I'm going to check Takahashi's.
お、高橋さん。
No, this is Sasa.
あ、ごめん、笹です。
Takahashi is not here. Okay.
On Marx and Engels in favor of its homegrown philosopher Confucius. Vietnam is similarly de-emphasizing Marx and Engels in favor of the revolutionary leader Ho Chi Minh, who may be seen more as a nationalist than as a communist. China's resurgent Confucianism in many ways provides a philosophical basis for China's illiberal approach to non-representative, technocratic democracy. Inscribed at the entrance to Communist Party of China headquarters off Tiananmen Square in Beijing is Mao Zedong's slogan, "Serve the people." It's not only there, but it's there with an honor guard representing the mob.
Oh, this is for the people. This is in Chinese. They're talking about this is Tiananmen Square. This is for the people. So, leader is a good leader. They try to consider for the people. Right?
Motto of the Communist Party of China, its very reason for existing. Chinese communism like Russian and other communisms, had its origin in modern democratic theories. Now, not the strain of liberal democratic theory that comes to us from England and the West, but a more social democratic theory that comes from continental Europe and the East. Two of the leading lights being Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin. Karl Marx, of course, is well known as the co-author with Friedrich Engels of the Communist Manifesto and the author of Capital, Critique of Capitalism. Vladimir Lenin, of course, was the leader of the Bolshevik Party in the Russian Revolution. What most people today forget about these two leaders is that both of them were fighting autocratic, highly non-democratic leaders in their own countries. Neither of them started out as revolutionaries against England or America. In fact, Karl Marx lived in England, and Vladimir Lenin lived in Switzerland at the time the Russian Revolution started. These were people who were idealists fighting against autocracies and authoritarianism in their home countries, not people who spent their days fighting for revolution in England, America, and the West. Just to put this into context, the leader of Germany, Karl Marx's birthplace at the time of his early adulthood, was Kaiser Wilhelm I.
Kaiser Wilhelm I, left side.
Kaiser Wilhelm I was a autocratic, absolute ruler whose prime minister was Otto von Bismarck, and in war.
I think right side is Bismarck. Maybe Bismarck.
After war, Wilhelm I conquered first Austria and then France and later Denmark. This was an expansionist military.
He's talking about Prussia. Before
leader from the old feudal aristocracy of Prussia.
Old feudal aristocracy.
Not a modern representative democratic leader who Karl Marx was born under. Nicholas II, Tsar of Russia, was even more absolutist until he was forced to allow some vestige of democracy.
Also, both of those is very similar age. 19th century. The end of 19th century.
After the disastrous war with Japan in 1904, he had ruled as a complete autocrat. Even after that, he had much more absolute power than any king or queen of Central or Western Europe. So the government that Lenin successfully overthrew in Russia was far from any kind of liberal democracy. Similarly, in China, democratic ideals arrived in 1911 with the overthrow of the last Manchu emperor. The Manchurian emperors were...
Just one, maybe you can read this, can you?
Which one, the blue or the...
Yeah, blue.
Kind of. Yeah, that's better.
It's better?
Yes, that's
better. Foreigners from Manchuria who ruled over China under the Qing dynasty from 1648 until 1911. The Chinese...
He's talking about after 1911, Sun Wen is occupied, just the Chinese Revolution.
The revolution in 1911 was considered not just democratic, but also nationalist. It was a rising of the Chinese people against foreign emperors who, again, had at least some theoretical absolute power of life and death over them. The Chinese Republican revolutionary Sun Yat-sen, like Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin, spent time in the West. He was born in China, but educated as a child in Hawaii and later in his...
Yeah, did you know that? In Hawaii.
20s in British-administered Hong Kong. So all three of these revolutionary leaders, Karl
Son Yat-sen's wife is very famously daughters. Very famously daughters. And one
Who's
is,
wife?
yeah, wife of Chiang Kai-shek. One is Son Yat-sen. Very famous. And the other one is, she got vice premier after China Revolution, 1949. Eldest daughter is deputy premier, Fukushiki.
Marx, Vladimir Lenin, Sun Yat-sen can be seen as, well, people inspired by Western democratic ideals, even if they did not embrace Western liberal principles of government. They all wanted to replace autocratic, non-democratic, non-liberal governments with governments that were more oriented toward the benefit of their people, even if the replacement governments that they wanted to put in place were not themselves liberal governments. Sun Yat-sen in particular had a theory of government that might be called, in the sense of, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, government of the people by.
I think you had better memorize. Sun Yat-sen's idea is just the same as Abraham Lincoln. And he's explaining Abraham Lincoln. A little bit different, but you had better think about that in English, the same, okay?
The people for the people. In Sun Yat-sen thought, they are known as Minju, Minchuan, and Mincheng. Minju, a government based on the people as sovereign, not on dynastic rule, so government from the ground up of the people. Minchuan, the idea that power derives from the people through constitutional mechanisms, so government by the people through constitutional rule of law. And Mincheng, government for the people, government that was intended to ensure that the welfare of the people was the main objective of rule. Now, as in Western Europe, Marx was very influential in Republican China, and Marxian and Leninist principles were part of a broad intellectual background of Republican Chinese thought. The Chinese Republic under Sun Yat-sen and later under Chiang Kai-shek was not a communist government. It was not explicitly Marxian, but it did draw its ruling ideas from people like Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin. In fact, after the Communist Party victory in 1949 in the Civil War in China, mainland China became the People's Republic of China, and officially communist. The Republic of China continued to exist on the island of Taiwan.
He is mixing, matter carefully read or listen to what he's talking. Mainland China and also Taiwan, just vice versa, he's going to explain.
And you might think, given the Cold War contrast between Mao Zedong and the People's Republic of China versus Chiang Kai-shek and the Republic of China, you might think that this would be a contrast of communist versus capitalist. It was nothing of the kind. In both the mainland and on Taiwan, the state owned major industries, just as the communists did on the mainland. The nationalists, the Republic of China on Taiwan, nationalized, that is, brought under government control, all of the large, heavy industries of the island. Both countries had land reform to break up big.
He's explaining both countries. He's talking about Taiwan and mainland China. They did land reform. This is true, but usually never really going to explain like that, okay?
Feudal land ownings on the mainland in communist China. This initially resulted in land being given to small peasant holders, just as it did in Taiwan.
Oh, this is, he said, land is given to the small peasant holders just after the revolution. But later they established commune and a large scale of a group, cultivating land, right?
Only later did Mao Zedong enforce the collectivization of farms into big
Oh, this one, collectivization of
publicly owned farms, something that never happened in Taiwan. Both countries had one-party rule in the interests of the people. On the mainland, it was the Communist Party. On Taiwan, it was the Nationalist Party. And both were governed illiberally by unelected military dictatorships. Neither Taiwan nor China had anything.
It's interesting. He said that Taiwan is military dictatorship.
Illegal.
Huh? Illiberal military dictatorship. Okay, so
Even Taiwan too.
Taiwan and China is also same.
Resembling liberal democracy in the era of their founding rulers, Mao Zedong and Chiang Kai-shek. After the deaths of Chiang and Mao, both countries.
I never heard about kind of explanation before. He said Taiwan and China is on the same law, right? Same law, same level.
Same level.
Yeah, never.
Countries changed dramatically. One might even say both countries liberalized, but in very different ways. Taiwan went on to become a vibrant liberal democracy, and today freedom of speech and freedom of expression run rampant in Taiwan. Taiwan is an extraordinarily vibrant democracy where people express themselves en masse in the streets anytime they want, with little regard to what the government may feel about it. In fact, just a few years ago, students seized the legislature of Taiwan.
Yeah, this is a student-occupied Taiwan legislature, and at that time nobody killed, nobody arrested. Peacefully solved this issue, right?
In what was called the Sunflower Movement.
Oh, Sunflower
and
Movement.
they did this without any deaths or without any protesters being shot by police. It was one of the world's great manifestations of the Occupy spirit that started in Occupy Wall Street in New York's Zuccotti.
Taiwan is when they going to be a democratic country is I believe just Li Donghui, Li Doki, Li Donghui. So when is it? We are 1990? 1990? Not so after very many years after World War II.
Park. On the mainland, there has been liberalization of the economy, but little to no liberalization of politics. Under China's post-Mao leadership, in particular Deng Xiaoping, China moved to a kind of post-communist capitalist authoritarianism.
This is a very good, accurate explanation. Communist, capitalist authoritarianism is China.
The government.
Post-communist.
Communist.
Post-communist.
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 But actually not communist. This is actually this country.
That's why it's post.
Okay, post-communist.
After communist. Capitalist.
Not socialism. Not socialism. China is actually the capitalist authoritarian country.
The government of China since 1978 has resembled the kinds of military dictatorships, capitalist.
He said they resemble the kind of military dictatorship, capitalist
military dictatorships that were sponsored by the United States during the Cold War. Places like Brazil under its military dictatorship in the 1970s and 1980s, Indonesia under Suharto. These are pretty much the models for.
His explanation very interesting. He just picked up Indonesia and South America, right? Like similar to China's kind of regime, 1970s, 1980s.
For today's China. One of Deng's first acts when he became leader in 1978 was to invite Coca-Cola back into China.
Oh, by then, 1978, China invited Coca-Cola factory in China.
This was highly symbolic that Deng was signaling he was going to rule as a authoritarian leader, but not as an anti-capitalist leader. And in fact, Coca-Cola was made legal in mainland China one day after Deng Xiaoping took office. It was virtually his first act to have a Coke and a smile. This represented a move to what he called socialism with Chinese characteristics. And in fact, it's become a trope in contemporary China to the point of becoming...
Sorry, trope. 比喩。
どういう比喩？
比喩。例えば。
In a joke that anything that is Western but adopted in China has to be called such and such with Chinese characteristics. It's a mark of irony that liberalism and socialism in China, even capitalism, don't really mean what they sound like in the rest of the world. Deng's guiding philosophy was summarized in the epigram, "It doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice." He wanted growth and development, and if that meant some people getting rich before others, he was very happy to have it.
Never happened. Huh? Never happened. In future also never happened. No, richer is richer. Richer is richer. Poor, poor.
Yes.
Since 1978, China has in fact experienced massive economic growth, one might say unparalleled economic growth in the history of the world. China has come nowhere near catching up to the rich economies of Western Europe and North America, but in a brief 4 decades, China has gone from being one of the poorest countries in the world, on a par with poorest countries in sub-Saharan Africa today, places like Malawi, and Malawi, Chad, Central African Republic, Congo, on a level with the very poorest countries in the world, to being a middle-income country. China today has roughly the same income per capita as Mexico, Brazil, or Poland.
But it's based on
difference,
cost, right? But it's based on cost.
Based
not
on.
The inland.
Oh, okay. Just you need to consider for China this their income per capita. Don't misunderstand. Averages mean nothing. Average means nothing. Beijing is more than $10,000 instead of Shanghai, Shenzhen same, and sort of several big cities. Just exactly the same level of middle income class. Okay. Middle income class. But majority of this country is still very poor. Okay.
So much lower than Brazil.
Of course, lower. Of course, they're lower. But nobody tells this. It's interesting, right? Is it? And I just explained it before. I think 10 or 20 countries organize one country. China is. America is 300 million population. It's just only the whole China. Only coastal area is 300 million, the same as America. But GDP organized only 300 million. And the remaining 1 billion is just nothing. Yeah? Don't misunderstand. They can make nothing, only farming, but very poor. Okay?
He says that while other countries have liberalized, China has experienced continued political repression. Today's Brazil and Indonesia and Poland have much more open, liberal regimes.
Oh, he's talking about China still now is heavy depression.
Economic depression.
No, repression.
Repression.
Repression, sorry. Depression.
Than they did in the 1970s and early 1980s. China does not. There was a brief moment of political opening in 1989, but this was crushed by the People's Liberation Army in the June 4th Tiananmen Square massacre. The context of the Tiananmen Square massacre was the collapse of authoritarian communist regimes all across Eastern Europe. Now, this photo here of the destruction of the Berlin Wall, this actually dates from November 1989. The wall came down after Tiananmen Square, but nonetheless, the change was in the air in Eastern Europe. Poland's solidarity movement was already running in elections, and it was clear already by mid-1989 that Eastern Europe was on the road to massive liberalization. This is something that China's leaders did not want. Now, some people put it the other way, that Eastern Europe's liberalization was to some extent inspired by the outpouring of liberal sentiment in China in 1989. We'll never know for sure what caused what, but it does seem certain that China's leaders were very afraid of Eastern European style liberalization. And as it turned out, they were right to be. All of the regimes that existed in Eastern Europe in 1989, including the communist government of the Soviet Union itself, have now disappeared into history. The Communist Party of China is still in charge. Mao Zedong had warned that Deng Xiaoping was secretly a quote-unquote capitalist roader, and he turned out to be right. China today most resembles an authoritarian capitalist country, not any kind of communism as was
Okay, authoritarian capitalist. None of communism, none of socialism.
expressed in the theories of Marx and Engels in the 19th century. China still pays homage to Mao Zedong. Here is Mao on the Chinese currency, and in fact, Mao appears on all of the yuan notes, most visibly here on the yuan, the 100 yuan banknote. But even if China embraces Mao's memory, it does not embrace his thought. And in fact, Mao is being steadily erased from Chinese memory to be replaced by perhaps an unlikely candidate, which...
No, he is changing his story to Confucius.
Chinese philosopher Confucius. I say unlikely because under Mao's rule in communist China, Confucius was explicitly prescribed.
Yeah, explicitly prescribed.
Confucian temples were desecrated.
Yeah,
Public
destroyed.
statements of
Destroyed.
Confucian thought were outlawed. Confucian books were burned. Confucius was viewed as a representative of the old feudal China. Confucius told people, don't question your position in the world and don't challenge the government. And Mao's message was a revolutionary, we should be challenging the government all the time. Now, of course, the subtext to Mao's challenging the government is you shouldn't challenge Mao. But nonetheless, Confucius himself was persona non grata in communist China. Today, Confucian principles are widely quoted in support of continued Communist Party rule. Respect for authority, the importance of family,
He explaining the character of Confucius.
Communist China wanted to get rid of the family and instead replace it with loyalty to the state. Today's Chinese communist authorities promote respect for the family so much that they've actually passed a law saying that parents can sue their children if their children don't call and visit on a regular basis. Confucian thought put heavy emphasis on hierarchy in society. Those below should defer to those above. And most important at all from the standpoint of the Communist Party, obedience to the government of the day. That whoever is in charge deserves the obedience of those.
The obedience is the concept of Confucius. Obedience and patience.
Who are ruled.
So government is like this kind of obedience by people, right?
Even if the person in charge has gained.
Oh, what happened? Oh, he left. Maybe he left. 切れたね、切った。
Gained power in an unjust or illegal way. That kind of philosophy, that people should obey the government just because it's the government.
Okay, by the way, he explained Confucius recently. Many management, many people, intellectual people studying Confucius. Okay.
Is obviously very attractive to an authoritarian government that has no real democratic legitimacy. Central to the Communist Party of China's Neo-Confucianism is the concept of Tiansha, or all under heaven. The idea of Tiansha
終身成果遅刻で天下天下天下終身成果遅刻で天下身を治める家族を大事にすると天下の国を治める But he's talking about 天下
is that when there is one ruler, all of society is at peace. Even if the ruler does not deserve to be, or is a bad ruler.
Okay. Okay, Sasabe, okay. I connected.
The fact that society is united under one ruler means that there is no conflict in society itself. And that kind of peace is worth the sacrifice made in living within justice. In the Tianxia concept, individuals should not seek to upset the balance of society by challenging the government. They should work with and through the government if they want improvements, not challenge the government or attempt to bring it down. Because if the government comes down, that would result
He's talking about obedience
in disorder, disharmony, and civil conflict and potential death and destruction. China is now busily building or rebuilding or renovating Confucius temples all over China, beginning with the Temple of Confucius itself in Shufu, the temple that was built at the final resting place of the philosopher.
As you know, all over the world they have more than 100 schools, Confucius schools.
Itself, the Temple of Confucius in Shufu, once abandoned and vandalized, has now become a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a heavily promoted tourism destination, especially for domestic Chinese tourism. There are also Confucius temples in major cities all over China. The entire center of Nanjing is given over to a Confucius temple district celebrating the life and principles of Confucius. In addition to promoting Confucius inside China, Confucius has become the public face of China to the rest of the world. So universities all around the world have Confucius institutes that are funded by the Chinese government for the learning of Chinese language and culture. Contemporary Confucianism preaches a creed that is diametrically opposed to classic Western liberalism. And yet, the kinds of resistance that we saw in 1989, like this June 5th photo of the Tank Man standing up to tanks in Beijing's Tiananmen Square just one day after the Tiananmen Square massacre. This kind of glorification of the individual.
So Chinese government denied this kind of glorification of the individual
resistance to authoritarianism is not just banned in China. I think it is also disappearing in the Western liberal democracies as well. Many of us in the West may applaud the Tank Man for standing up to Chinese authoritarianism. Yet how many of us applaud Westerners who similarly stand up for freedom and openness in Western societies? the Chelsea Mannings of
Chelsea Manning, I
world
explained for you.
who have sacrificed their own lives and freedom in order to challenge our Western governments and to challenge them to respect our own ideals of liberalism, openness, and democracy.
But China denied all those things, right? Based upon Confucius.
I think it's very easy for us to condemn communist China for its, well, its very transparent battle against liberalism, while we ourselves let our own governments fight a much more sophisticated, much more light touch battle against transparency and liberalism. When our own governments are monitoring all of our communications, it's very difficult for us to vilify communist China for doing exactly the same thing. Key takeaways. First, the Chinese revolutionary leader
Okay,
Sun Yat-sen
he started to summarize.
Had a philosophy that was based on three Lincolnian principles of Minju, Minchuan, Mincheng, loosely translating as government of the people, by the people, and for the people. China's post-Mao ruler, Deng Xiaoping, was instrumental in setting up today's capitalist authoritarian society in China. And finally, contemporary China's Neo-Confucianism is an illiberal governing philosophy that stresses respect for authority over individual freedoms. Thank you for listening.
So, by the way, what is the best solution or what is the best regime, what is the best suitable regime in China? And maybe currently they are satisfied because of the current organization. But if they're going to have look at similar type of Gorbachev in USSR, maybe China will going to change. Because Chinese is not only the sticking to current regime, but also you can find that Hong Kong, you can find that Taiwan, is they are Chinese but democracy, right? So we don't know what is the best solution supposed to be. But if continue the current regime, this Communist Party, Communist organization, they will sustain the current Australian capitalism. Okay? This is one. I just explain. And one more for this is the last one. I will one more thing. This is very short video. It's talking about very simple and easy one. Just you can read this Japanese here. If they are living in China, no problem at all for living or doing business. If they don't consider for like media freedom or consider for some sort of things, human life or sort of things. This is 5 minutes, very easy video. You can understand. Oh, sorry, this is 2 words. Wation, brand. Okay, 2 words.
Hey, how you Econ students? This is Mr. Clifford. Welcome to ACDC Econ. Do you have a question?
Mr. Clifford, if the free market's so awesome, then why is Communist China doing so well? Now, that's a great question. And to answer it, I've come here to the People's Republic of China. Right now, I'm in a city just north of Hong Kong called Xiamen. When American students think about China, they probably think about this, a very old, historic, and traditional place. But I came to see Red China and find out why communism is working. So quite frankly, it's kind of hard for me to be here around all these communists, right? I'm a free market economist, and all I see is red, 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 red. Joe McCarthy would just be turning in his grave seeing all these communists all over the place. But it sure doesn't feel like communism. Right? Everyone's wearing different clothes, and there's people with cell phones, there's people shopping at the stores, there's no ration cards. Even the McDonald's is red. Wait, McDonald's is always red. Wait, McDonald's? Starbucks, KFC. Red China is not very red. I mean, everywhere I look, all I see is markets.
markets everywhere. Take a look. You want to buy a hat? There's hats. You want to buy some sweets? You can buy some sweets. You want to buy some jewelry? There's jewelry. This place is the free market. This is not the government telling these producers what to produce. This is clearly capitalism. Right now, China has the second largest economy in the entire world. It's supposed to surpass the economy of the United States in approximately 2 decades. So why is there so much economic growth in China?
In my opinion, I think because China is a new country with a lot of opportunity. China is a new country started from 1979.
What happened in 1979?
1979, our very famous premier named Mr. Deng Xiaoping. He's a very smart guy. He's the founder of a new country. He say, we want to build a new China, so we want to open our market, we want to do everything new.
Xiamen is one of the original special economic zones created back in 1979. That means that it has a special government system that allows foreign investment and foreign trade. Did you notice that lady check me out? That means that it has a special government system that allows foreign investment and foreign trade. The idea works so well that Chinese government actually continued the process by establishing 14 more special economic zones. These are mostly coastal cities with access to ports. The result was this: double-digit GDP growth year after year for almost 2 full decades. Now, this is a communist country, and the Communist Party does control it. But it's very clear that this is open to the free market at the same time. It looks nothing like the classic centrally planned economy that you see in a textbook. China's a communist country, but it's nothing like North Korea. What's the big difference between China and North Korea?
You know, in North Korea, the government totally controls the economy. But in China, Chinese government controls part of the economy. And we have central planners, but that's not all. We still have free markets.
China is a great example to show you how the invisible hand of capitalism leads to more economic growth. But don't think that everything is perfect. There's no democracy or free speech, and the government heavily regulates foreign influences, so there's no YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. The education system is very rigid and a little bland, and that's why I'm here, to get teachers excited about teaching economics. Chinese students are super smart and hardworking.
We sell our classes.
This is why China is so rapid growth in past 3 decades because of mainly education.
7:20 in the morning, and we finish our class at 4:30 as afternoon, and we have our self-study time 7 to 9:50.
The school ends, like setting ends around 10 o'clock at night. There's no school sports except for PE, and there's no school mascots. And these are their toilets. Notice, no toilet paper. But this has nothing to do with their economic system. So, is communism really better than capitalism? Enough with the gong, okay? Communism is not the reason for China's success. It's a market economy with socialist characteristics. Chairman Mao is on the money, but Adam Smith is on their mind. Until next time.
Okay, I think last show they explained the education. China's big success is education. Of course, they have a lot of issues, but I believe the big success is education. Okay, this is a summary. You can. China is organized standing committee, and people representative are 3,000 people. Who's organized? Who's lead China? This is People Republic committee members, 3,000, and also government-owned company top and local government top, but also military. Those 4 groups is govern this country as oligarchy. And economy is capitalism, but this is completely different from American, British oligarchy. Different is they have no freedom of media.
Press.
Okay?
Freedom of press.
Freedom press and media. Okay? And they no voting, and based upon meritocracy, and not politics by the people. This meaning the same as America. America is also people are neglected, but China is they don't human life, and they don't rule of law, and China is ruled by law. Ruled by law means top leader organized judiciary, no independent of judiciary. Legislative and judiciary is followed by obedience of the executive suit, and none of democracy's element is not sufficient. But you have a video of Eric Lee. Chinese political regime is not good or bad. We can say the American democratic regime is good, but good or bad is a little bit difficult to say. What is the best solution for the regime? What is a good one? What we can say? We don't have a result yet. So we are happy to get into the next issue.
Already?
Yeah, it's a long way. Turkey is Erdogan oligarchy. We are seeing a terrible plunder like the one that created the Russian oligarchy. This one is, I can't pronounce well, but Seyfettin Güel. No, Güel. Güel is, he escaped the States, okay, that's an adversary of the Erdogan. Columnist and professor of economics has said in reference to Turkey's ever-expanding crackdown against secular and dissenting business groups. Actually, crackdown is Turkey is arrested 50,000 people. 50,000. And Koch Holdings is Koch family is famous in Turkey. Koch Holdings has its hand in everything from oil refining and banking to car manufacturing and electronics, among other things. This is Turkey's wealthiest family, which has always enjoyed government benefit, not the least from the ruling AKP party elite. 3 generations of Kochs have continued to amass wealth in Turkey, beginning with the family's founder, Velvi Koch. In the 1920s, Tuplas also owned 40% of the country's second largest fuel retail chain. It also set prices. Where its European, Middle East, Africa colleagues do not enjoy this advantage. Koch's family. He is Koch. No. This is Gülen. Gülen. Well, how do you pronounce this? No, he is Koch.
Koch family?
Yeah. He is Koch. Okay, just we have a look first video, maybe. First one I try to. This is a little bit long, so I can finish it, but first 10 minutes I can. Interview for Erdogan. Erdogan can speak English, but not so well. So interviewer is going to ask him, but he answered Turkish, but translated in English. So exactly like English. So, but this is difficult to find out Erdogan's speech in YouTube, but I could find it, this one.
People out of their country.
Fail the country. Hello and welcome to this special coverage of the ongoing situation in Turkey after Friday's failed attempted coup, where I'm joined in what is...
Oh, this interview done just after coup d'etat.
Recent interview with the Turkish president
Recep Tayyip Erdogan in the capital Ankara in his first ever live interview to be broadcast in an international network. Mr. President, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera. I want to start by asking about the events.
Yeah, this is Al Jazeera, Qatar broadcasting. Qatar broadcasting. Saudi Arabia forced them to stop this. Otherwise, we cannot open the relationship with this country. But this is crazy. Al Jazeera is one world best broadcasting, right?
Well,
in the Middle East. That's similar to the Russian RT. RT, I don't know what abbreviation. RT.
I don't know.
Russian broadcasting is also very good one. English broadcasting. RT and Al Jazeera. I don't know, but I try to use this one. It's very good.
Of last Friday, we've heard many conflicting reports of what exactly went down, when you found out, how you found out that you had missed or managed to rescue yourself from a possible assassination attempt by just a few minutes. Could you tell us the details of what exactly went down on that fateful evening?
Well, first of all, thank you very much to all the TV viewers that are watching us in front of their televisions. I would like to send my heartfelt emotions, my gratitude from here, Beştepe, from Turkey. On Friday, 15th of July, around 8 p.m., it was about 8 p.m., and we were in Marmaris. We were there for a vacation of 4 to 5 days, and we received the news. And once we received the news, we tried to contact our colleagues and friends, and our efforts to reach certain colleagues mostly failed. And then we were able to get hold of some people, some colleagues, and then we had a discussion, and after the discussion we decided to have a press briefing, and during that press briefing, I advised people not to panic, nobody should panic, and I invited the people to take to the streets, to take to the squares, that it would be the right thing to do, because within a democratic parliamentary system, when you have a president of the republic elected to office with 52% of the vote and the government that receives 50% of the vote, in this type...
Oh, he is talking about 52% is national referendum. Okay, referendum. So he just got to take a position for next term.
Of a country, this sort of a coup, or an attempted coup, would be best answered by the presence of the people.
Actually, he talking about the coup, but arrested 50,000 people, including government officials. I believe majority of those people is not relating coup. Okay, he is intentionally trying to get authoritarian power in this country.
Street, answering to those who want to impose their will on their decisions. Now, after that intervention, I was glad to see that, to follow that the people actually abided by that recommendation and took to the streets, and then, of course, I went on air on 4 separate TV channels trying to spread this message as much as possible.
But before we go to the people's reaction, there's one detail that a lot of people are asking about. Who told you about this coup? Because today we heard that one of your MPs from the ACT party said that it wasn't the head of the intelligence agency that told you, and that the head of the intelligence agency knew 4 hours before it happened, from 4 p.m. and didn't know. Who told you about it? And also, how did you manage to land safely in Istanbul?
Well, we learned it afterwards. Well, it was my brother-in-law that gave me the first news, but initially my reaction was disbelief when faced with that piece of information, but of course following developments verified that initial information, and when that happened, I had a conversation with the head of the National Intelligence Agency, and in the following process I was already with the Minister of Energy, on site, and then we decided to take a number of steps. And the first step, one of the first steps at least, involved me and my family to take a helicopter from where we were to Dalaman, and from Dalaman to come to Istanbul by taking a plane. When we came to Istanbul, when we arrived in Istanbul, of course, there were some difficult moments there as well. And those difficult moments were, of course, very tough, very difficult to explain. And we had F-16 jets flying at low altitudes, faster than the speed of sound. And that was, of course, an effort to instill fear in the hearts of tens of thousands of people who was assembled there. And then we sat down with a number of colleagues in the positions of authority, and we planned the aftermath, what was going to follow. And then the following developments were under our control, and it went very well, very positively, and within 12 hours we were able to take the situation under control. With those developments, of course, we were always very careful about one point, because previously we had these busy protests and some other events which all provided experience to us. So we also went back upon those experiences, and the commander of the First Army made a declaration. We had a chief public prosecutor from Ankara who also made a declaration. I was followed by other prosecutors, and those interventions helped a great deal in keeping the situation under control. They were very helpful.
Following those events, when we're talking now about what you have done in terms of reaction, not just the popular reaction of the people, but you've carried out, or your government and authorities have carried out arrests of more than 10,000 people. You came out on television.
He said at this time, just after coup, he arrested 10,000 people, but now it's 50,000 people.
He said this was not a military coup, but it was an attempt by a small section within the military to overthrow democracy. Rounding up 10,000 people isn't a small number.
Well, within the armed forces, it is impossible to have an exact figure of the people that were involved, but it is clear that it was a minority, and we refer to it as the federal terrorist organization. Now, the minority tried to impose its position and will on the majority. That's what was happening. And by taking steps that night, we had the opportunity of putting an end to that. And when that happened, we controlled it and put it to a stop.
How is it that something that was so well planned, well thought out, that involved not only the army but the judiciary and other things, as your authorities have trained by arresting these people, how is it that something like that could happen without your intelligence services preempting it, being aware of that?
Well, there is, unfortunately, clearly a lack in our intelligence, a deficiency in our intelligence with this situation, because had we had strong intelligence, then this Fethullah or Gülenist terrorist organization would have never had the opportunity. Across the world, intelligence agencies, of course, they might have their shortcomings or deficiencies. Even the mightiest, the strongest intelligence agency can and does have shortcomings. We saw that in the United States during 9/11, in Russia, in Europe, in Belgium, everywhere we experience these kinds of situations. What matters is to minimize these kinds of occurrences. Therefore, our intelligence agency has to become much stronger, and we have to, of course, quickly determine the points of weakness, get rid of those, and take the necessary steps. But what I observe is this.
He is talking about, he tried to strengthen the intelligence. It means very similar to Japanese government. Conspiracy theory. It's very similar. They just try to consider for how to control information, how to control people's movement, and he said he tried to more enforcement of intelligence power.
With Japanese government, or Japanese media that were in control.
Oh, Japanese government also try to control. So far, they strongly control the media itself, but also they try to more enforcement of the intelligence, right? So this is a conspiracy view, right?
Enforce
of intelligence. Intelligence, yeah, Japan.
Enforce
Intelligence.
What do you mean?
Means okay. Intelligence means okay. You try to consider for like something, conspiracy,
Yes.
plot or plan.
Yes.
They try to.
교보자.
That's right. Conspiracy. The similar thing he's talking about. This is every government want to do that. Okay, any kind of government they want to control their own government, but Turkey is too much. Arrested 50,000 is unbelievable. Just only one coup.
Yeah, that's
And so they profit any kind of media and arrested many journalists, whoever. And recently they control the internet, everything else. Ridiculous.
Oh, really? Recently they control internet too?
Yeah, doing that. It's some sort of thing they started to do that, right? Turkey,
On the intelligence side, even beyond technology, the human element and human intelligence is way more important. Therefore, in terms of human intelligence, we will be taking very strong steps. It's what needs to be done. The events of that day, the Yulenist terrorist organization, of course, despite all the structures and measures, despite all the steps they had been taking and they took, this attempted coup was of course suppressed, and I do not accept the idea that the suppressed attempted coup was the end of the story. They might have their plans of their own for the upcoming period, but regardless the plans they might have, we have to know and acknowledge one point. It is that when the state comes together hand in hand with its nation, they will not allow passage to those people, and the nation has embraced its state, and since the nation has embraced its state, the tanks could not achieve any results, and the nation stood in the way of tanks. That was remarkable, that was very important, that's what the people achieved.
This remarkable or unprecedented show of unity, I will come back to it in a couple of questions, but I want to ask something on the issue of arrests. How was it that you were able, if you didn't see this coup happening, how was it that you were able to find so quickly all these culprits? I mean, all these thousands of people. What kind of evidence did you have with regards to rounding up these people? Are you just questioning them now? What is it that allowed you to act so swiftly?
Well, we, of course, have our suspicions. We have suspects. Now, the laws prevented many things. The laws put a block in the way of many things. And seeing that some people played active roles in this attempted coup gave us the opportunity to discover the ties and connections they have with certain circles, and we already had an idea as to their connections. Therefore, the judiciary acted immediately. It's working around the clock. Of course, the judiciary also knew these things. The intelligence services also had information on those people. Now the intelligence services are simply documenting their already existing information.
But his explanation does not make sense. And how are you going to arrest people? How are you going to figure out the person involved in coup d'etat? And he just claimed, but it doesn't make sense.
Making that information completely and readily available. And the tensions that are now ongoing and the questionings that are now ongoing as a result of these, the national police obtain certain pieces of information, the police intelligence, the national intelligence, they are working very heavily and taking additional steps. And I was referring to human intelligence a couple of moments ago. On the human intelligence side, we have started obtaining significant documents and significant pools of data that have started to come pouring in. Right now, we have 9,004 people in detention, and we have 1,933 arrested. So with those in pretrial detention and people that have already been arrested. It doesn't mean that it's the end of this. It hasn't ended. It hasn't come to an end, in my opinion. So those in pre-trial detention and those that are arrested, I think they will lead us to many more names. That's the reality that's starting to become obvious now. And of course, we will remain within the boundaries of law because Turkey is a state, is a country where you have the state or the rule of law. So within the boundaries of our laws and legislation, the judiciary will continue working, and as the judiciary will continue to work, the information it obtains will be very important because we started to now have people confessing to some of these situations. And those people that are confessing are leading us up to many other names, and those names now have clearer.
This looks like very similar to the police before World War II, Japanese police, right? Special police. She's talking. This special police Tokko. By the way, Sasabe, you say something.
I
Say something. You should say something.
Yeah.
Say something.
Say
For what?
any comment?
No, not for what. It's just a comment, you know.
Any comment?
You should make comments.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Ohashi wanted to listen from you.
Yeah, what do you think?
He said, what do you think?
I think Eldora is not talking about. I'm not sure what she wants to explain. She just, speaking about how to control the media or something, or how to get to know about the possibility of the against the government. Against the Erdogan. So I feel he is like he don't like to be he don't like to he like more. How can I say?
Ohashi is concentrating what he's talking about, but still his face tells me he doesn't understand anything at all. Sasabe, okay, just anytime you need to, or you don't need to summarize in your mind, you can speak out whatever you think. Don't worry about grammar, okay? Don't worry about any grammar, just speak out whatever you think. Okay, otherwise your English skill will not going up. Okay, you are speaking English like very similar to my son. She never she got any opinion before. That you need to get more familiar with talking about what your opinion. Okay, say again. Explain something again.
Me?
Say again.
Okay. So I think.
Oh, you don't need to worry. Just I don't criticize you. I don't blame you. Just speak out whatever you think. Don't need to consider for any grammar. Don't be ashamed, okay?
Okay. So I think that he avoid to explain something like core or critical thing. He don't explain about more critical thing. For me.
So what do you think? What is a critical? What behind he didn't talk? What is a critical issue? For example. For example, what is a critical issue?
He does not explain why the coup d'etat has happened, and then what is behind the coup d'etat.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so I cannot understand what she, explanation. So,
Okay. Good, good.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. And because many people, a lot of people are against his authoritarian method for controlling their government and people, right? That's right.
Mm.
Okay, it's good. So, any other question? Anybody? Okay, we today, luckily, we get into Turkey. So next week we can continue the video for Turkey, and then Turkey is not so big issue so far, but I try to reconsider the Turkey. I'm going to show you this is Erdogan video, and then also another one, and planning to get in India, but I need to prepare one more video for explaining Turkey economy and politics instead of Erdogan. But Erdogan is just I try to show you his character, but I just adding for one more video for explaining Turkey economy and politics. One or two
little background.
background. So this is Turkey is actually not democracy, but oligarchy, or what kind of regime they are trying to actually they are doing. And then after that, India. But next week is I try to focus on Turkey. I'm going to add some more. I forget to submit this material today. Sorry.
Okay.
I still don't. I don't. Uh, but why? Because I didn't change this area today. Same as last week. I just developing the other place. Like today, I just much more spend time for Germany. 3 weeks later, okay, Germany, and also yesterday I did some Iraq, and now it's 180 pages only. I'm making effort every day, so it's very hard work for me. But democracy is so deep
Yes.
to discuss and gradually understand what to learn for this. Everybody believes democracy is the best. And like last week, I showed you Anson Chan, and she is a very best person to explain democracy. And but just listen to her. Democracy is not the best, Okay, so those things we just keep going, and country by country, and okay, this Turkey, but you consider for what kind of this country is, and is it democracy? Yes, part of it. But why he is oppress or repress the people and arrest journalists, and why he arrest 50,000 people? So we try to consider why his intention is. Okay. So next week we need to focus on this, and then
Is that something to do with Islam?
oh no, Turkey. Oh, of course I'm going to talk about, and the politics is we need to talking about refugees from Iraq,
Yeah.
and 3.5 million
no.
people there.
Iraq, no, Syria.
Oh, Syria, sorry, Syria. 3.5 million is refugees from Syria accepting. And Turkey's environment. I need to talk about how the relationship with Russia and how the relationship with United States of America. Sort of things I need to explain.
Yes.
Right? And then why everyone what he want to do for his country? Is it democracy or oligarchy or authoritarian, right? So things we are going to discuss by country, then following to India, following to Korea, North Korea, and a lot of so things we discuss. Then we need to focus on what is our ideal,
Ideal.
goal is supposed to be. Okay, Sasabe, okay?
Okay.
Oh, okay. So today is finished. Thank you. Just then finish. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I need to finalize recording. Okay?